Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming along this afternoon. Welcome to the early careers session. And also thanks to Albion and Remas for sponsoring the places for all the young people today and those in early careers. So just to say, for this session, we've got a couple of poll questions and introduce who's here. We've got Alasdair Meldrum, we've got Claire Shipp, and two of our four volunteers, April and Ezekiel, are going to help today, which we'll explain a wee bit. But Alasdair, do you want to just quickly introduce the podcast?
Yep, so Rubbish Talk podcast, fortnightly podcast, it goes out every second Thursday at 4 o'clock. We are going to record this. Don't worry if you speak and you stumble over your words. I'll do that all the time. We will edit it. It'll go out probably next week sometime. We're keeping it quite relaxed in terms of what we're going to talk about.
Our volunteers are going to ask the questions, but we will have a bit of time at the end for Q&A. If any of you are not happy for those questions or answers to be included in the podcast, please let us know, but hopefully that will be fine.
Okay. So welcome to Resource Scotland special Rubbish Talk. So we're doing an early careers session with some students from University of Edinburgh, Caledonian University and University of West Scotland, with myself, Alasdair Meldrum.
And I'm Sheila from SLR Consulting and also from CIWM Centre Council for Scotland.
And not Jane Bond.
And I'm not Jane Bond, your regular host. So welcome everyone to the podcast. We've got a slightly different format from the regular Rubbish Talk podcast. Today we have some special guests with us. We have Claire, who's going to introduce herself.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Claire Shipp and I work for the Association for Renewable Energy and Clean Technology, or the REA for short. And I do work on the organic side. So AD, composting, and organic waste to land. And yeah, excited to be here and chat about early careers and any advice I have from just starting my career in the waste industry.
Thanks, Claire. And we also have our other special guests in the room. We've got Claire, April, Anna, Ezekiel, and Mohammed with us. But we've got two students that are going to help today on the podcast. Would you like to introduce yourself, April?
Yes, so my name's April and I'm currently studying environmental management at an undergraduate level at Glasgow Caledonian University.
Thank you.
Yeah, and my name is Asiko Shibuko. I'm from Kenya and I'm currently doing my Masters in Environmental Sustainability at the University of Edinburgh, and I'm happy to be here. Yeah, thank you.
That's great. So now I'm going to sit down, you'll be pleased to hear, and I'm going to hand over and they're going to ask the questions. Thank you.
So can you explain your role and how it fits in with the wider waste management framework?
So I'm director of a company called Albion Environmental. We focus on training and consultancy for the waste and resource management sector. So we work with companies, whether any companies that either produce waste or manage waste, we provide support and guidance to these organisations.
And I'm the Circular Bioresources Analyst for the REA, and the REA is a trade association, so we have lots of member companies across the renewable energy sector, including the waste and resources sector, and we help them by responding to consultations, supporting on regulations and policy, and also providing technical guidance. And specifically, my department works on the organics to land part, as I mentioned, so AD, composting, organics to land.
Great. Till now, what are the most challenging problems the waste sector has faced? And also, what are the biggest challenges currently facing the waste management sector?
So I suppose for myself, so I started in the way, although I look quite young, I started in the waste sector in 1990. At that time, we were put into landfill probably around 95-96% of the waste that we produced in the UK. The European Landfill Directive came in and we had to change how we landfilled waste in terms of the engineering design of the sites. So one of the first jobs I was ever involved with was a site up in Aberdeen, and it was actually the first site in Scotland that was lined with an artificial liner, an HDP liner. And that was at the time, that was a massive change for the sector in terms of how we could re-engineer these sites, improve these sites. And to a certain extent that works. I'm not saying it's been forgotten, it's still ongoing, but that's a huge change for the sector back in these days. And we moved from 95% waste to landfill to, about 50% going to landfill or waste energy now.
And I just entered the waste industry. I've only been in this role for about a year, so I can speak a little bit more to future challenges for the waste industry. And I think just from being here a year and looking at, like, even today in the conference in Resourcing Scotland, how complex these issues are, but so interconnected, I think it is difficult sometimes you have to really get down in the weeds with all of these topics on microplastics, on the landfill ban, on ETS, on all of those things. But at the same time, you have to be able to step back and see the whole picture and see how it all works together to be able to create practical, workable solutions. Because if you're not able to see how they work together, the solutions aren't going to be applicable on the ground for operators. And I think that is really challenging, and communicating that to the public who don't have a professional interest in the space is also really difficult. And those are the people producing the waste and the people we need to encourage to reduce, reuse, and recycle. And so reaching them on these complex issues that are so interconnected can be really difficult, especially when we don't always have the resourcing financially or personnel-wise to do that.
Well, that's really insightful comment.
Which is the purpose of the Rubbish Talk podcast, because we shouldn't be communicating with this room. We should be communicating with a wider audience, the public out there that actually generate the waste.
I just want to follow up on that. So with your experience, I know you had a career, you have more than 30 years experience in the field. So what are some common misconceptions about the waste industry that you've come about so far?
I think the biggest misconception is the waste industry's waste. It's not our waste, it's society's waste. The waste industry ends up dealing with the waste society produces. And one of the comments I was going to make earlier on at the session this morning was, we need to get much better at talking to society about the problem they're creating. For too much, we try and take it on as a waste management industry problem, the emission trading scheme we need to comply with, all the recycling targets. We're viewing that as an industry problem. It's not as a society problem. And we need to get much better at communicating out to the public.
I think I definitely had this misconception when I joined my current position. I came from the agriculture industry. That's my background. And when I got into this role, it was because I was really interested in the recycling to land part of it. I didn't realize how broad the waste industry is. It touches every aspect of our lives, and therefore should be top priority for us, for people who care about the environment, for people who care about the future of our world. This touches every aspect of our lives, and therefore should be a priority for people wanting to make change. And I think that's not always understood for, people in their early career studying.
How could we further our career within the waste industry?
I think one good thing you can do is to volunteer. I think there's lots of opportunities in the sector, whether it's Chartered Institute Waste Management, RIA, RMS, Switch. There's lots of organisations that are effectively volunteer or member-led organisations where they always need a hand. They need somebody to take notes. They need, it can be really simple stuff, but just getting involved and building up that wider network. And I think just what you're doing by attending here today, we need to get lots more students come to events like this, young people come to events like this. There is definitely, when I started, way back 30 years ago, I worked for a company called Shanks & McEwen. And as a young person, you never got an opportunity to go to an event like this. It was all the, as I'll call the grey guard, the people that, actually knew the stuff. It should have been the younger ones that were going, and we're still quite guilty of that. It's quite challenging for local authorities to fund people coming here and so on. It's trying to get these opportunities where we can get people together to meet, to go and do site visits. But certainly volunteering is a very, very good way of getting involved and building your network.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say, is do things like this. And my biggest tip, I think, that's helped me a lot, transitioning from agriculture, which was a bit tangential, to now the waste industry, is watching people who have been in the waste industry for a long time, see how they navigate these spaces, what does their network look like, what has their career path looked like, and how can you emulate that by saying yes to opportunities and making decisions that lead you down that path, and asking them questions, because people like to talk about themselves. And if you ask them, they're going to want to share advice with you and support you. So yeah, take advantage of your network and the people who have experience, because they'll want to support you in that.
Can I just ask, Claire, I'm not asking Alasdair this question, but are you using social media platforms to kind of build your network? Like, what are you doing in that space? Alasdair's not allowed to answer that, actually.
Yeah, I mean, LinkedIn's incredible. I mean, lots of people use it. I think it's good for staying in touch with people you meet at conferences and things like this. I would never imagine all the incredible things people are doing. And then they post it on LinkedIn. I'm like, you were working on that paper the whole time? Because we're so distant now, especially after COVID, working from home and all those things. You don't know all the projects people are working on. And so being able to be on LinkedIn, seeing what people are working on, can inspire conversations that lead to more progress in the future and collaboration that helps us move forward. And so I think using it in that way to, one, stay in touch with people you meet like offhand at a conference and not letting that connection just die at the conference. And then two, like seeing what people are working on and then jumping off that and supporting that and also moving it forward by offering your network to them. And promoting collaboration.
How can you go above and beyond with projects?
The thing I would like to see, I always like to see if somebody's, if I give somebody a project or somebody's doing a project, don't come with problems, come with ideas for solutions of how you could get. And even if they're only half-formed solutions, at least you've got that step forward. So that might be a problem with this. And I suppose, my presentation earlier on, I did get to a stage where I was like, this data is a pile of rubbish. It's not giving me the answers I need. I can't find the answers I need. And it was very much, how do I solve that? I might have half a chance of solving that by talking to experts for each of these waste areas, talk to them. And I'll be honest, the most common reaction I got was, oh, that data's rubbish, use this data. And I'm like, I've not got time to go and use that data. I want to use this data set. But by talking to them and understanding it, I was able to put these conversations together and say, the reality is I'm not going to get all the data for this presentation, but I know the principles I want to talk about and use that as the actual presentation. So it's almost looking at the not coming with a problem, but coming with, this is a problem I've got, this is how I think I can sort it, and having that discussion with, whether it's your boss or whether it's a colleague or whatever, and just talking about that thing definitely helps. And as listeners to the podcast know, I do a lot of running and so on. Sometimes it's quite good to shut the computer, go out the door, and just run without really thinking about stuff. It's quite often the solution or the idea that comes to you because you're not consciously thinking about it.
And I think that's especially important for young people in the workplace. Your managers want to hear your ideas and see you solve problems, because that means they don't have to solve the problem always. Like, they want you to come with ideas and solutions, like Alasdair was saying. And so not being scared to share those ideas. It might not be how the project actually moves forward in the end, but bringing those solutions to the conversation can go a really long way.
What skills and knowledge do you believe are essential for the next generation of professionals in the waste management industry?
You've got to be able to communicate well. You've got to be able to research. You've got to be able to investigate, research, and information. I think the whole information overload. When I started out my career, we never had Google. I ran all my time at Shanks McEwen, all my time at Bar, which took me up to 2002. I never actually had a computer. We hardly even had a mobile phone. I was the first person at Shanks to get a mobile phone, because I was working on my own sites. And everybody was all jealous because I had to be Sam Grant sitting here someplace. He'll agree with that. I was the only guy on site that had a mobile phone that could actually fit in your pocket rather than the ones that were car ones. So, that shows how much technology's moved. But, younger people, what's the shift going to be in the next 10 years, 20 years in terms of what we're doing? We're trying to use things like ChatGPT, AI, all that sort of stuff. That's going to transform it. But one of the difficult things now is there is so much content out there, and there is so much nonsense out there as well. So how do you separate fact from fiction? What do you use as your proper source, that you understand that source is correct and accurate. And that, I think, is going to be one of the big challenges the younger generation have got going forward.
Yeah, I think the skill that's been most useful to me in my current career is being able to zoom in and zoom out where appropriate, kind of calling back to what I mentioned earlier. You can get really wrapped up in the weeds on these topics because they are so complex and scientific, but being able to take a step back and see how it fits into the broader picture is really useful. And sometimes you have to make yourself do that, especially when you're in a project that you really are passionate about, because you need to see how it fits into the wider purpose of what you're doing so that you can really move forward on it effectively and make that time useful. And so I think, yeah, that's been really useful for me, especially in the sector that is so broad and at the same time so complex.
What advice would you give to someone looking to enter the waste management field?
What advice would I give someone entering? I think, yeah, being willing to learn, being willing to say yes to opportunities, and also getting on site when you can. When I was in the agriculture space, being on a farmer's field is the best place for me to learn, because that allows me to do the regulatory and policy work. Now being in this space, getting on a compost site, getting on an AD site, getting on a waste or water treatment plant site, being able to talk to those operators who are actually doing the work will allow you to do better policy work, better advocacy, better business solutions, whatever you are doing, because all of those things have to be practical, and those are the people that you're serving. And so really centering them in your work by getting out on site and being with the people who are doing on the groundwork is really important, I think.
Yeah. If you listen to episode 1 of Rubbish Talk, where I'm being interviewed, you've got to listen to that, by the way. Simon Glenn's one is just sitting 1 point below, so I need to get a wee stretch ahead of Simon's episode. But if you listen to that one, I had, when I left university, I did environmental health at university, and my intention was to become an environmental health officer at a council. And I had 2 job offers. I had £12,500 with, I think it was East Lothian or one of the West Lothian councils, and I had Shanks and McEwen, £8,500 and a Fiesta van, and I chose the £8,500 one. And the reason I did that, talked to Dr. Colin Clark, who some of you knew, and he said, take the Shanks one, was that opportunity until never come up again. And he was probably absolutely right. So I never particularly did that for the money, but what I learned was I was able to go round sites from the north of Scotland to the north of Wales, and I learnt so much from the people on the ground that were doing the day-to-day job. And I think there's a really big danger that, you go to university or whatever and you get all the academic stuff and you come out and you think you know everything. The reality is these guys on the ground know so much. And it's maybe not the academic stuff to know, but it's the real practical, how to get things done, how to make things happen. And that's really important that you actually spend time with these people and learn off them. And they'll also learn off you. So I used to get to the stage when I used to go to site where they'd be like, come on, we've got a problem here, come and have a look at it, what do you think? So they were coming to me for advice. It wasn't even my role, but they used to come for advice because they knew I would sort of explain it to them and help them understand it.
What could we do as individuals to create a more sustainable future?
It's a good question.
It's a big question.
It's a big question. I suppose, going forward, particularly for the young generation, I think it's, I like going abroad on holiday. And now you're thinking, you talk to John Ferguson will not go on a flight because of the carbon emissions from it. So we're moving into an age where we're having to think, well, can we actually justify that carbon for the emission? How are we going to all lower our carbon footprint? My feeling is the whole climate thing is just going to accelerate pretty rapidly, that we're going to be in the position where we need to start doing stuff. The one I always say to people that think about it is this fact: are we doing as much with waste in terms of recycling? Are we using the food waste? Are we using the recycle? Vast majority of the public aren't. And that's something they could do pretty simply. That it's not going to have the biggest carbon impact, but it's still going to have an impact and help save resource and reduce carbon emissions.
I think for young people specifically, we're just now choosing our careers. We're just now choosing how to use the skills and resources we've been blessed with. And I think I know talking to a lot of my friends about like feeling drawn to making progress towards climate change and doing real work to do that. And the thing we talk about a lot is thinking deeply about what are the skills that we have and what is the knowledge we have and where can we be best placed to make change with that toolkit. And so I think thinking deeply about that as a young person and choosing a career that allows you to move progress forward is really important and something that, if you care about it, would be also rewarding for you. Because there are so many brilliant people. I just finished a master's degree at Oxford last year, and the people I was surrounded by were like astoundingly brilliant. And the amount of incredible things that these people are going to do is so exciting. But I think as young people, like, we're inheriting this world, we're inheriting this climate. How can we make sure it's the best possible thing for our future? And how can we use our skills and talents and place ourselves in a position to move progress forward on that? And being strategic about that. Okay.
Oh, thank you. And how can we bring more awareness among the public to increase the efficiency of our systems?
There's local authority people in the room. That's the big challenge. How do we get it? My personal view of it is I think Scottish government, UK government is failing to say you must use the system as it's designed. They've just not done that. They've just not said, you go to Europe, you go to Germany, you go to the Netherlands. If you don't use the system properly, you get a letter. If you still don't use it properly, you get a fine. There's no ifs, buts, maybes. You've got to use it. And they'll put the pressure on the waste industry, they'll put the pressure on local authorities. They're absolutely failing to put the pressure on the public. And it's not necessarily, it's easy to do. I do it in my household, most of the people in the room do it. It's not that hard to do. It's just the vast majority of people actually don't care about the waste because they've not been made to care about it. Magic bin fairy comes along the back lane and takes the waste away and they never see it again. And that's back to this thing. We're very poor as a sector at communicating that message to the public. We'll talk and moan and grumble to ourselves, but we'll not actually get out there and sort of challenge the people producing the waste.
I've got nothing to add on that. I agree.
So we've got a couple of questions. I'm hoping this is going to work in here. So if you all get your phones out and go on to the poll, hopefully someone can tell me it's on there.
It is.
Is it? But is it on your screens? Yeah.
The question is, do you think the industry does enough to promote the opportunities in the sector? And the answer is no. Well,
we've got a wee bit there.
90, still changing, 92%. No. 85%.
Oh, still moving.
I think the majority is no.
I think it's pretty clear. No. Okay, second question. What things would help you the most with accessing career opportunities, training and education support? You can write as much as you want here.
I'm not sure how we're going to do this for a podcast, Sheila. So there should be a word cloud starts appearing.
Hopefully.
Okay, mentorship and internship. Face-to-face training. Organised site visits. Funding. Community groups.
Oh yeah, funding. Funding is definitely coming out.
Funding.
Do you think that's because people still sort of see waste maybe within certain disciplines and don't see the broader things? I'll give you the microphone.
Yeah. Really, should waste management and sustainability be based into every course rather than just, at the moment it's probably focused on the environmental courses or the waste management courses. Should it be embedded in all disciplines like civil engineer, chemical engineer, whatever?
Absolutely, because I think that sort of knowledge and the knowledge of the funding for today was siloed within one department. So my department, the engineering department, maybe didn't hear that this was a funding opportunity that I could have taken advantage of. But more than that, even within the sort of skill itself, I recently delivered a lecture to accounting students on waste management because they have no idea about these issues. And really, if these are going to be finance and business leaders or entrepreneurs in the future, we want these people to have sustainable thinking, a sustainable mindset going into that, and understand how these issues are not just important for physical sciences, but they're important for every aspect. So that every aspect in the schools, within the university, but also in society in general.
So how does you're not getting the microphone go yet. How does the waste sector engage better with the university sector in terms of sustainability and waste management? How do we get that across every subject area?
I think by having people from sort of interdisciplinary backgrounds, because my background's finance and accounting. So I came from the finance and accounting side. I'm now in an engineering to PhD, which sounds unreasonable, but that is the case. So I'm now taking things from that element back to places where I think, well, hang on a minute, that wasn't in my program. Why wasn't that in my program? So the more conversations we have and the more we open this up within the student population, then hopefully that should filter through all the different skills. Because I think it's important that all the different skills hear about sustainability issues, hear about waste management issues, because every single person on this planet creates waste. So we all have a responsibility to look into that.
I think you should keep the microphone.
I think you're doing well. You're doing well with that microphone.
I'm going to open up the floor now. Is there anyone else that's got some questions they would like to either ask our student volunteers or Claire and Alasdair? Is there anyone else that's got any burning questions? If I don't see someone, I might pick on someone. Okay, we've got one there. Oh, got one.
Mike, hi.
You just want to introduce yourself, say where you're from.
Hi, it's Sheila. Brian Harkins, Bin Group. I've been in the industry a number of decades too, and just for the young aspiring, individuals students down the front there. An awful lot of times we don't discuss about that real hard side of the industry, and that is collecting the waste from the point of origin, be it the household or domestic premises or industry. Now I heard today that the average age of UK HGV drivers is 56. That's a big issue. My son is also in the waste industry in an operational role, and he was telling me the weekend that he was asking me some advice, and it's the same issues that's been within the waste resource recycling sector for 13-40 years. Drivers, industrial operatives trying to get people who are going to be lifting your waste from your front door, pulling your bin out, putting it back. And it's great to hear, the fact that you young adults are getting involved in the industry, but there's still a lot of things at the sharp end that we've got to focus on. Average hourly rate, I would think in Scotland, in the private sector will be £14 an hour. You can earn that money and go home at night and you're nobody's tired as you are, filling 150 wheeled bins. So there's got to be a wee bit of redress and a wee bit of, focus on that side of things, I believe, over the next, 2 to 5 years or so, or we could be facing a bit of a problem.
Thanks, Brian. I think we had another question over here.
We all know vapes are a big problem at the moment. So I was wondering, what other products or devices do you think are going to be similarly problematic in the future or already?
I was slightly triggered the other day. I saw an advert for an electric toothbrush with batteries that you could not replace, and it was one of the big. I can't actually remember the manufacturer, but I was like, why are we still putting products like that in the marketplace? It's like, I've got an electric toothbrush. You replace the batteries, it lasts for a long time. You replace the heads. Okay, you're creating a plastic head every so often, but at the end of the day, you're not chucking out a whole big electric toothbrush. And we seem to be, earpods are just a bit disposable nowadays. With more and more of that tech that we're using and consuming every day, that, you know, and I can't remember who mentioned this morning about the vapes, you know, manufactured vapes are just going to work to the limit of that ban, you know, and it's not, that problem's not going to go away, which is quite frightening.
Got one at the back.
Okay, my name is Solomon. I'm studying environmental sustainability at the University of Edinburgh. So my question is in regards to composting, and is a sustainable way of treating waste. Or my concern is in the emissions, because when microorganisms break down those molecules, they emit greenhouse gases. So, like, how do we trap those things? Because I had the opportunity to visit one site where they are doing composting, and when you see the heap of those wastes, you will see a thick smoke coming out, and those are emissions. So how do we trap those emissions? Are we trying to, because the trade-off is too much, because we are saying we want to do it in a sustainable way, but why we are also creating another issue? So how do we trap those greenhouse gases?
In terms of if you're composting well, if you're composting properly, your emissions are largely water vapor. If you're composting poorly, you will get ammonia gas and things like that released that you're right, needs to be managed. You know, it is like composting on a big scale is quite difficult to do. There's lots of sites in Scotland. There's quite a few sites that have run into quite a few problems with odours, for example. So it's not, you know, quite often the odorous material is a tiny percentage of the emissions, but it's the bit that people smell. There's a bit of logic that's why, you know, anaerobic digestion is potentially a better method, because you're collecting the methane, you're then using the methane to generate electricity, and you've got your digestate left. But probably that question might be more suitable for Jenny Grant for the next session.
Yeah, I would definitely encourage you to come along to the organic session. But yeah, just to say, I think one of the reasons I think composting is so special is it's such a like visceral representation of the circular economy model. You're taking food waste and then processing it in a way that allows it to go back to the soil and restore soils and help with water retention and nutrient content, biodiversity. And I think that's such a beautiful example of the circular economy that we're trying to achieve. And yeah, Alasdair mentioned if you're composting right, there's lots of regulations and practices in place to prevent emissions from composting. And I would also say we don't want to, as young people, let perfect get in the way of progress. And composting might not be perfect, but it is a really great example of how we can process our waste in a circular way and return it back to the earth so that we can grow more food in the future that's nutritious and, yeah, sustainable.
Any more questions from the floor? So I think, Alasdair, Claire, it would be useful now, just we've got the slide up, just about other ways people in the room can get involved, maybe make things. Do you want to your areas?
Yep, I'll mention the first one. So we were talking earlier on about volunteering opportunities. Before I do that, you never let me answer earlier, Sheila, so that's what I'm going to answer now. My LinkedIn profile probably has got about 2,500 people in it, and I probably actually know at which conference I met these people and so on. Their contacts will also be in my Outlook and so on, and I will go back through and think, oh, I met that person. I'll maybe not be able to name the event. It's so important to build up your database of people that you hang on a minute, I need to find someone out, that person there knows. So, you know, if you're not doing it, if your LinkedIn profile and stuff's not up to date, get it up to date and start making connections with people.
So basically you want people from today to message all of us, really, because I'm on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Was Claire, you're on? Yeah. So yeah, please get in touch with all of us. And then from there, hopefully we can put you in contact with other people in the network.
Or even just looking through my network, looking through Sheila's network, see if there's people that are interested. But make sure you put a note, you know, you get plagued by salespeople, you know, but if you've come forward saying you're a student of such and such, or I've just started a job at this, then I'll accept that quite happily. There'll not be a problem. But anyway, on to the slides. So Switch, the Switch organisation is a charitable organisation that supports health and safety and training and education in the sector. So if you're interested at all in the training and education part, I sit with Duncan Simpson chairs the Education Training Competence Group. I sit in that group as well. There is a health and safety group. Everybody wants to join the health and safety group. I'll be honest, that's the boring group. The good work is done in the education training group. Our AGM is on the 4th of December, kindly sponsored by Civil Training. Tuesday, the 4th of December, 9:30 to 3 o'clock. And we have some good speakers from the HSE turning up, and they're going to be talking about POPs, persistent organic pollutants, and good opportunity for anybody to come along and learn more about the sector.
Yeah, and then I just wanted to flag up for everyone here that the REA will be hosting a training session for young professionals in the waste and resources sector about public speaking. I might not be the best example, but we have other people who have done lots of public speaking in their careers and are going to give people tips and tricks on best practice for speaking on panels, for chairing sessions, and then just giving speeches at conferences and things like that, which can be really useful because I know public speaking is really intimidating for a lot of people, including myself. And it's going to be hybrid. We wanted to make it hybrid because our office is in London. It is in person too. If you want to come up to London, you're welcome to come and join us in the office. If not, we also wanted to do it online so that people who are based in Scotland were able to attend specifically from this conference. It is £25 to join, but if you have any trouble paying that, contact me, send me an email, and we can work something out. There's going to be a little part of the training at the end where you get to practice the skills you've learned. It won't be super scary. It'll be super casual, super supportive. And like I was saying earlier, saying yes to stuff like this is great, and not to use that to get you to come to my event, but you should say yes to this event because I think it would be good.
I think you definitely sold that one. So I was also saying at the beginning, we've got a question. Yep. Yeah, if you want to say your name, where you're from.
Hello, I'm Beth from Fife Council. I'm just wondering, will that training be recorded by any chance? I'm not available on the 28th, so I'm just wondering if it'll be recorded.
I bet we can make that happen.
Great, thank you. And obviously I said at the beginning, I represent the Chartered Institute of Waste Management. I sit on the Scotland Centre Council. So it'd be interesting to know just at the moment, who in the room currently has got a membership with CIWM? We've got a few at the back. Well, the one, yeah, okay. So yeah, it's worth checking out the membership if you're in the kind of student category. There's sort of free memberships, and then there's varying different categories of membership as you go along. But there's massive benefits to being a member, including those that are seeking maybe a mentor. They'll basically hook you up with somebody that would be suitable and has got the right skill set to kind of support you. There's also loads of training information on that as well. So even if you just go on the website, you'll be able to get for free a skills matrix. So depending on where you think you might want to be in the industry, it'll give you background to different skills areas. So it's definitely worth having a look at that as well. And like say, if you're interested, there's obviously details on the website for people that maybe want to pursue membership there. But that's definitely one. I know a lot of us are now chartered waste managers, so we've all been through that process, and it's a very supportive institute to be part of as well. So that's the kind of three kind of areas, but there's definitely more out there. That's just ones we thought we would highlight today. Is there any more questions? I'm just going to check how much time we've got left. About 5 minutes. Okay. Is there any more questions before? Yeah, we've got one. Okay. If you just want to say your name, where you're from.
It's James. I'm from the Apes and Chalmers Stewart. I work with Laura, who's been chairing the conference today. I'm just going to ask everyone, the panel and the students, what's your favourite thing about being involved in the industry and about studying to be involved in the industry?
You guys going to go first?
I enjoy how varied it is. Like how many different routes you can go down with your career. There's many different opportunities involved with it.
So for me, from where I come from, like my community, I always see waste all over, and I always feel really bad because I have all this knowledge and I can't really make change. And that's the thing I'm learning here. You have all the theoretical aspects, but then you really need to get to the ground to be able to get to know what's happening. I'm enjoying my current studies right now because it gives me a broader perspective, gets me connected to people who are actually doing work in the industry, and also getting exposed to different technologies which will be useful in the future, because the global south is still developing and we will still be needing this, and the north are a bit ahead with technologies and all that. So I'm really excited to the opportunity that the future holds, and just to make a change into my community. Yeah. Thanks.
My favorite thing is the people.
Oh, that was pain.
That's why I love the agriculture industry. That's why I love the waste industry. You're working with real people who care about the work they're doing and care about the people they work with. And I think that's a really special thing that you shouldn't take for granted.
That was mine.
Sorry.
The people, but also what you said, the variety of careers. You know, when I started from university, I loved outdoors, all the rest. I used to go wandering around sites. Sam Grant knows I used to talk to him in the machine. He was studying his higher English at the time in the machine. You know, he used to stand and go and talk to them in the sites, and an incredible diversity of opportunities. And the people, you know, the people are the key. That, you know, I'm lucky enough to build a big network. And if I've got a problem with something, I know who to phone. And if they don't know, they know who to ask. And it is a very good, you know, the sector in Scotland in particular is a very good community.
Yeah, I totally echo that. I think it's interesting. I originally studied law, so I didn't come kind of through a traditional route into the waste sector. But that's what I absolutely love about it. And what you were saying earlier about coming from an engineering background, you meet so many different people with different qualifications, experiences. It's a family. I actually, when we talked about this before in Alasdair's podcast, I left waste for a couple of years and I did another job. But it absolutely, you come back because it is a total family and you miss it. And I think every day is the challenge. I don't think you ever know everything. But the best thing I have learned is building my network so that I've always got somebody I can reach out to and ask those questions. So it's been great today to see everybody in the room here. I know we've got a couple of minutes left. So what I'm going to actually ask you all to do is stand up and find one person in the room that you don't know. I want you to introduce yourself and exchange details. So at least you're leaving with a new contact from the session.
Before we do that, could I just say, Thank you very much. Please, if you do listen to the episode, please share. We are a bit underrepresented. The female listenership is slightly lower than the male listenership. Young people, please share within your audience. And my challenge to you all as well today is when you actually stay for the networking after, is introduce yourself to one person you don't actually know. So thank you very much for listening to Rubbish Talk. Please share. And a round of applause would be great because we don't get many rounds of applause on.
And thank you to we've got our other volunteers as well that helped. There was four of our volunteers that have worked really hard to help us put this together, and we couldn't have done it without them. So thanks very much to you guys and the other volunteers that were here today. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Great.